A very warm welcome back to the channel, everybody. My name is Karen Saunders, and tonight I've got an Escape from the Tower story, and I will be interviewing for the first time on the Escape from the Tower series a couple, and their names are Jim and Samantha from the UK, and boy have they got a story to tell us tonight. Lots of experiences, lots of things that waking Jehovah's Witnesses watching the channel will probably really appreciate. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Jim and Samantha to the channel. Hey, my friends, how are you going?
Hi, Karen, you're right.
Good, thank you.
Very good. Lovely to see you both. But anyway, I warmly welcome you to the channel. I've been getting to know both of you over the last few weeks, and your story is quite something. We've got quite a few things to get through in terms of the dynamics, the timing, the time frames, and so forth. So before I ask any questions, I just want to quickly ask you, how long have you been awake? Like, how long is it since you've left Jehovah's Witnesses?
For me, properly awake October last year.
Yeah.
Right. And
For
you, Jim?
myself, for myself, it was kind of it started in 2012, spanning to what now, so over a 10-year period. But it was probably a series of mini wake-ups that were constantly shelved and suppressed, and it did result in like a full waking up, probably about 6 months before Sam, like. But I was going
Right.
through, carrying on because of her, really.
Okay, right, yes, we hear that quite a lot. So I've got some questions then, basic questions that I normally ask everybody. What was your connection to Jehovah's Witnesses then, both of you?
So for myself, my mum started a Bible study when I was just a 6-week-old baby. So I was brought up as a witness. It was a divided home, as the witnesses would say. My dad was a Catholic. So he didn't force anything though. So my mum would take us to meetings, myself and my older brother. And my dad didn't have a problem with that. But we never did Christmas anyway because he was too lazy to do it, or birthdays anyway. It was difficult for my mum because she worked in a catering in a hotel. We lived on the premises, so she would work a lot. So in the end, I started going to the meetings on my own with a pioneer sister. So that's how it started for myself.
Right, okay, so you were born into it, really. Yeah, okay. What about you, Jim?
I mean, so my parents converted as witnesses in 1990, so I'd have been about 8 years of age at the time. And they, the situation with my parents, my dad wasn't particularly religious. My mother was a Methodist, although she wasn't particularly practicing. But it was my dad who, at his place of work at a brickyard, he used to have the magazines for probably spanning over about 7 years. And it culminated with him going to the memorial, and he was instantly love bombed and impressed. And then sort of from that moment on, he had a Bible study, and there was no looking back. He really embraced the so-called truth. And my mum, she kind of sat on the study with a view to kind of correcting everything, thinking my dad was going crazy, and she too also embraced it all, and they really kind of went full on into the truth. It was a very spiritually strong family, and I ended up getting baptized in 1995 at the age of 13. And there's a total of I've got a younger brother and 2 younger sisters, and it's my younger brother who's only out of all of us who's still in, sort of thing.
Right, so are you both from like quite large families?
Myself, I've only got an older brother, so there's only 2 siblings. Mine.
Right.
We haven't got really sort of extended family
No.
I mean, I keep saying the truth, but you know what I mean. It just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it?
Don't
You know what I
worry
mean?
about it. We've all been there.
Yeah. So I mean, I've got sort of no real extended family in the truth, but it was just my immediate family that were kind of like a bit of a rock, really, in the congregation to start with.
Right. Okay. So pretty you know, average raising in the organisation, kind of that's what happens with most families, very, very similar to what you've just explained there. So can I ask you if there was any time ever that you had any positive experiences growing up in the organisation?
Well, I was encouraged to regular pioneer.
Right.
So I would say my blessings were out talking to people like yourself, Karen. I love the ministry. I love talking to people. I'm a social person.
Yeah.
So those kind of blessings for me, and the friendships, because, you know, you think you get on with them, obviously, because you're taught the same things. So like what we'd call wholesome association kept me away from doing things that perhaps my peers would get into at school. So that's probably the positives for me.
Right. Okay. What about you, Jim?
Yeah. I mean, positives really. I think I had a very, very good upbringing. Like the congregation we first went into, it was like a very, very strict congregation, and my dad was quite a balanced in comparison to a lot in the congregation. So we grew up. We had a great, like, you know, social scene. Played football, went out quite a lot. Then obviously I met Sam, which I presume I'd regard that as a positive as well.
Oh yeah, I forgot that one.
And then obviously then we served together in a Portuguese congregation, so it was nice to learn a foreign language, you know, alongside Sam, and serve in that field for a bit. And you know, we made many good friends, although now you can sort of see how indoctrinated a lot of them are when you step away.
And that's the key, isn't it? It's only when you have the luxury of hindsight with regards to being able to step out and look in. And I don't know about you, both of you, but my question for a very long time when I first woke up was, how did I miss this?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Do you feel the same? Yeah. Yeah. So on that note then, it seems to me that you had all your really good experiences while you were a lot younger growing up in the organisation, which tends to happen. It's all alive, you know, when you're young, because it's a social scene, and you know, it's being part of the in crowd, and then there's cliques and all that nonsense. But when you're young and you're in with everybody, it doesn't matter, does it? As you were getting older then, obviously into adulthood, you met one another, married, as you said, you went to Portugal. That's amazing. Served over there in the English speaking congregation, I take it.
Sorry, it was a Portuguese congregation, but it was in Wales. It was in
Oh,
Wrexham.
sorry. Oh,
So I'm half Portuguese. My dad's Portuguese.
oh, so you speak
Had me up the
Portuguese
hand
then?
on Jim to learn it all.
Oh, right. Okay. So that's awesome. So you speak Portuguese then?
Yeah.
Very, very good. Very good. So what started happening to you in a negative way, negatively speaking? What did you start to notice and experience in the congregations?
Jim got it first, so you've
Yeah. So basically, I mentioned sort of it was a kind of a series of things spanning across 10 years, and I've just made a mental note of a few of them, really. I mean, how it kind of started. I mean, even before baptism, there was things that I look, because I'm very much a kind of person stepping away and looking at things objectively. I remember having chats with my dad before baptism and saying, you know, I'm going around knocking doors. People are having the Sunday lunch. They're not having like a magazine off me. Does that mean they're going to die? And it just sort of little things didn't make sense to me, perhaps about the preaching work and how like there's various countries in the world that don't even know Jehovah's Witnesses, and sort of then you've got the amount of people being born every day. So I couldn't really say there was going to be this global genocide of people that never really kind of came into the truth. It was always something there in my mind. Yeah, and it really started going downhill for us. I mean, everything to begin with was great from the perspective of being a witness. As I mentioned, we'd been in the Portuguese congregation, and we sort of left there because the travelling was becoming a bit of an issue, and we moved locally to a congregation in Telford. Everything was fine. But my youngest sister, she was living at home with my parents. Out of all four of us, she was the only one at home. And there was a bit of a long judicial situation involving her. And I mean, I won't bore you with all the details of what happened and everything. But it was like a very trialsome time for the family and my parents. And it got really kind of blown out of proportion. And it ended up being that the situation even went to Bethel.
Oh,
It was
really?
it was kind of a situation where she maintained her innocence and there was individuals saying differently, but it was a situation that was kind of not handled properly. And what kind of happened is like I could really see, because my parents were taking her to meeting and judicial meeting after meeting, like they were coming home crying, and like it was really destroying my family. And so there was obviously that. And then what kind of happened was I had the visit of the circuit overseer when I was an elder, and I could tell that he could tell that I wasn't very happy about the way it was being handled. And like the result ended up being she was going to be disfellowshipped. And like he just worked with me on the ministry and said, you know, Jim, you've got to be you're prepared to throw the first stone at your sister, like, you know what I mean? And
Oh my goodness, are you joking me?
how cruel and how, you know, inhumane. And like he said, even if she's sort of you know, not guilty, we've still done the right thing. And I thought, where's the logic there? But I mean, rightly or wrongly, as to whether the disfellowshipping was correct, it was just the thing that stuck with me. It's the long-term damage and
Yes.
like the mental damage that, I mean, my youngest sister's now left, but she's still kind of left with like a degree of damage there, and you can see how it's affected the whole family. You know, my parents in particular.
So when you said, sorry, Jim, I'm just interjecting here because
Feel free.
yeah, because I mean, obviously this is your story, but I'll tell you right now, if my husband was here and my son was here, we'd be saying we totally understand, because we went through something similar with our son. So basically, when you say the damage was done, are you talking in terms of mental health?
Yeah, I think mentally, but I think because you really trust in the fairness of like organisation, you kind of really sort of I mean, up until that point, we'd really believed to be disfellowshipped, it would have to be for unrepentant wrongdoing, and you'd have to be really kind of a, you know, not sorry like sort of thing. And with this, it was kind of like almost a cold procedural disfellowshipping that was followed. And I think that's it kind of went against your natural beliefs and what you've been taught. And I can, although it's been sort of, I mean, my parents don't really speak to me much now because obviously that they've always maintained this view that the organisation is imperfect and it's full of bad people. They're not keen. They still maintain it's God's channel because they say it's helped in the Bible. So I've been sitting on that for over a decade. You know what I mean?
Oh, look, when I just laughed a little bit, then I wasn't laughing at you. I was laughing because I'm thinking, if I had £1 for every time somebody said that, I would be a billionaire now. Seriously, the amount of people that have said this, and I mean, everybody's singing from the same page. You know, I totally get. Oh, my heart goes out to you. It really does. I totally get where you're coming from. Sitting on that for a decade. Can you imagine that? Eating at you, making you toxic, you know, inside, and just I'm sorry that's been your experience. That's terrible.
Yeah, I mean, so that was how it started, but like, I mean, it's sort of that was about 2012. So it set me off on a little bit of a, in the back of my mind, it was something that was shelved because I would have always spoke to my sister, but she obviously because of the way she was treated, she never really kind of sort of came back. She came back briefly and then left again, but you could just see how it put and sort of, you know, that was the start of me sort of seeing gaps in the matrix, so to speak, when it comes to the organisation. And I did like start to occasionally look on the internet a little bit, but but like 2012, there wasn't really as much information as there is now. So I just had the odd little look here and there, and then I just forgot about it, and life became like very busy. I mean, I was about 28 or 29 at the time, so I was a young elder, and they kind of in the congregation I was in, they sort of perhaps swamped me with like a lot of responsibility to begin with. I mean, I was the congregation secretary at one point, and I was doing a lot of ministerial servant jobs as well. So like most evenings would sort of be spent, you know, the old record cards where you had to like write manually in hand, like the hours.
Oh my goodness.
So I'd got 80 or 90 of them. I'd do the reports, and most evenings, rather than watching TV or chilling with the family, I'd just be in the office doing that sort of thing.
Doing that. Oh my goodness.
It was just difficult at the time because we got 2 children, but the eldest, Jonas, I mean, he was quite a good baby, but when he became 18 months, he became like very, very hyperactive. And so I was trying to like, do all those jobs and manage like a child that was very sort of difficult. So I mean, the situation would be across the week, I'd be doing those jobs, then we'd go to the meeting, wouldn't we? And then literally the whole time we'd just be at the back with him because he just wouldn't sit still. Like,
oh no.
And the thing is, we also went through a phase where we used to pick up an elderly sister.
Well, she wasn't a sister, she was my study.
Like a study. So we'd rush out on a Thursday night.
Who was 80 years of age, who became an unbaptized publisher before she died.
Yeah.
And she was demanding as well. So Jim's on the platform. I'm here with 2 kids and an 80-year-old woman trying to...
But like,
and did anybody offer any help? Did anybody say, "Oh, can I help you?" Or
but then one of the elders told her, "You need to get the meeting." So basically, I was left on my own, wasn't
I? Yeah. I mean, we had as well, like, it'd be kind of a situation whereas if he'd play up, we'd take him out, but he'd still like be making a noise. So I'd stay out, and then some of the brothers would say, "Oh, Jim, you need to kind of come back in and comment and have a share in the meeting." And so, on one hand, if I did try and do that, then they'd all pull faces at me and tell me to take him out. So it's constantly like a game of hopscotch, really, where I was just like in and out all the time. And even the study where she was hard of hearing, she'd sometimes shout out. We had a sister that said to us, I hope you're going to keep her quiet as well today. You know. So it just that started to wear on us after the upsetting situation. With my sister. I mean, he's still hyperactive now, but it wasn't just a short period of time. It was like sort of a long spell, probably 6 years. Like the meetings being like every week.
Wow.
So that was the challenge. And
then because of his, obviously, we know now he's got a lot of issues. Our son has. One of the issues is he's got a processing disorder, and back in 2014, when our daughter was born, so she would have been 3 months old, Jonas had a severe burn where he got one of the really high dining chairs to the hob to look at what was cooking. And this is in a matter of seconds, leant over, and as the gas flame went up because of the water bubbling over, he caught his t-shirt on fire. So he was in flames. Jim was at work quite about 50 minutes away. So I was on my own with this baby in a little play gym in the living room on the floor, me trying to sort Jonas, who was 3 at the time, who was on fire. I got that out, and then you're in panic mode. I was like, do I ring the ambulance or do I just bomb it down to the A&E? So that's what I did. Jim come and met me at the hospital, and they put all the cooling gels on Jonas, and they said they're not working. We need to blue light him to Birmingham Children's Hospital.
Oh my goodness, right.
So this is where Jim had to go in the ambulance because I had a baby. I wasn't allowed to go in the ambulance with her. So I had to follow behind. And this, obviously, devastating. This was on a Friday night, I think it was. It was the 29th of July. Obviously, I remember the day. And it was after tea time because I was cooking the dinner. That's what was bubbling away. And We were in the Birmingham Children's Hospital then. They had admitted him, and they were going to do an operation the next day on the Saturday. And Jim said, "We're Jehovah's Witnesses. Do you know that?" So then obviously the blood issue came up.
Right.
Because you see, the thing is, you might think, why did the blood issue come up because of a burn? But the situation is, like when it burns so deeply, the skin, you can't kind of just put cream on it. It has to be like replaced, because it's
Well,
like
blood plasma's involved, isn't it? Yes.
yeah. So what they planned to do was kind of do skin grafts from his legs, and then put it on his chest where it had been burnt. But of course, they had to cut quite deeply into his legs to get the replacement flesh. That would have like involved the blood issue, you see. So that's why they said he might need a blood transfusion if we do this operation. But at this juncture, we said, well, we're Jehovah's Witnesses. And so we then contacted the HLC, and basically the way it works, so it might be different in Australia, but because of his age, the government, they can allow like the doctors to take the authority out of our hands. So if we said what we don't want him to have blood, they could potentially, if it meant his life, give him blood.
To make him a ward of, what they call a ward of court.
So basically, I thought, have I got to go to court then? And they said, no, it's done over the phone. And the HLC just advised me, you know, it's likely because of the welfare of the child is paramount, that they will kind of say, you know, if he needs blood, he's having it. They said, all you've got to do is put across your side, your religious side, and say, you know, the fact that, you know, we don't accept blood as witnesses. So this phone call was all arranged and everything. And I could hear the judge on the phone speaking to him. And I said, look, you know, I don't want him to die as a martyr, but at the same time, I can't, because of my scriptural belief, I can't sort of say that I want him to have the transfusion. I can't authorise it. But the results ended up being that they would have given him blood. They says, we're going to try and avoid not to give it to him, but if it comes to his life, you're going to give him blood, you see.
Right.
So that's how it ended. That was at the point. So the thing that kind of threw me like was when that verdict was passed, I was almost kind of relieved, because I thought, well, deep in my heart, I know if it means his life, they're going to give him blood, you see.
Right, yes, yes.
You know, die. So I was just going through the motions of presenting my religious views. And then I spoke to the HLC, and he said, well, if they, you know, if they give him blood, you just got to view it as almost it's forced on you against your will, almost like rape sort of thing. And then he sort of said about the blood, he said, and I will just say, you know, Brother Stanley, that the blood, it's very good, clean blood that your son will be having if he has to have it. So I thought, well, hang on one hand, I've got to make a stand and hope that like I win so that he might die. But then on the other hand, you're kind of telling me to view it as sort of rape, and the fact that, you know, it's good blood anyway and it's going to keep him alive.
Wow.
So it really blew my mind from the point of view, that cognitive dissonance of what's fair and right didn't seem to. And during the time he was in hospital, what I'd do sometimes, I'd go for walks in, you know, Birmingham City Centre to get some lunch, and I'd bump into the brothers on the cart, and I sort of said to one of them, I said about what the story I've just told you, what's happened with the blood and everything. And the response I kind of had was, well, you know, Jehovah will reward you in so many other ways if you're loyal to your beliefs. So in other words, if you let your son die, maybe you might be able to serve where the need's greater, or you might be able, you know, you're going to be blessed in other ways. And it just didn't sit right with me that I couldn't really be stripped of my humanity and endorse this teaching any longer.
Right, yes. Yeah. Oh, just hearing you explain it like that, just go ahead.
Jonas was in the hospital originally for 2 weeks, so he had the first skin graft, but then he had to have another one, so then we had the blood issue again. And every year we have to take him back to check all his scarring and he's got to have another surgery this year to release under his arm where it's tight. So it went
Right.
from the belly button all the way up to his chest on his right side, under his right arm as well. So that's restricted his movement as well, obviously.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
ongoing, but obviously now we
Yeah.
have our own minds.
Well, I mean, the blood issue is not an issue anymore, you know.
No issue.
I mean, so that was like on this point, that was like the second big negative thing. From you had the situation with my sister, and then perhaps the grind of the meetings and the challenges, and then this other big thing happened with my son, which kind of jolted me. You know what I mean, as regards our beliefs. And then what kind of happened after that? We just carried on going for the motions a bit longer. But I made the mistake, because after this point with the blood, you know, when you go to the assemblies and the conventions, they kind of mention, sometimes I'll show somebody heroically resisting having blood and everyone will clap, and, you know, I'd sit there and I'd watch that, and it would like really grate me and think, and I could never thought, so now really I should be being happy that I'd have let him die and be clapping, which didn't really make sense.
Can you imagine now if the worst had have happened and you'd woken up and not had blood? Can you think about all the people that have been in your situation now that have woken up and have lost loved ones, children, parents, whatever, siblings, who not having blood? Can you imagine the anger?
Yeah. It's really something that's
guilt as well, isn't it?
I mean, this is something in recent time, like reading Crisis of Conscience. I mean, I really came to view the Blood Doctrine as like the witnesses haven't got it right at all. I mean,
No, they haven't.
I mean, the command was to not eat blood. At the time, there was no provision of sort of life-saving treatment as regards blood. And if you look at, I mean, if your bull went into a pit, you were allowed to break the law to save life. And the principle there really is that life is to be saved. There's nowhere where there's any rules that override life in the Bible.
That's right.
You know, so I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying I would go and sort of eat blood now, but I mean, if it became a life and a death matter, I firmly believe that God wouldn't want you to kind of throw life away in order to preserve the principle of life, like Race and Franz said about the wedding ring, you know, how it's like you're going to sacrifice your spouse to keep the ring.
Exactly. And now, you know, I mean, we know that when blood is infused, you know, it goes through a completely different process, you know, outside of the stomach. So you know, I did a video on it. I can't remember if I sent you the link, but honestly, the so many things. How did we miss these? And like you said, the cognitive dissonance. You know, it's very quickly you quickly snap out of it because you feel bad for thinking like that. I know I did when I had things cross my mind, you know, and then I quickly dismiss it because I'm thinking, oh, I shouldn't be thinking like that, you know. It's satanic thinking.
It's very wearing on you, isn't it? Like that constant, you're playing mental gymnastics all the time. And I mean, I noticed, I mean, not that I was like an alcoholic or anything, but like I feel now, like when I was a witness, I almost, to calm my mind, I'd be like drinking like regularly. And now it's like that pressure's gone. It's like much more in a better place.
I don't think you're on your own on that one, Jim. I think we're all susceptible to self-medicating in one way or another. I just feel that just listening to you, you know, just some of the horror experiences that you both went through, you know, collectively and individually, is just on another level, you know. So I mean, is there anything else you want to add to that before I ask you the next question?
Yeah, there is another one. Did you want to
please.
say?
So for me, obviously the way I was treated, bringing the kids up, and obviously the elderly study I had, already in the back of my mind was like, I suppose this is supposed to be a loving organisation. Come 2020,
Exactly.
full lockdown, as a social person, I really struggled. So I joined a network marketing company online because I was getting the connection there. And the elders were frowning upon that, saying that you shouldn't be promoting a business online. And so that was griping on me. And then in 2021, Jim got really poorly with the COVID-19 virus. And he was actually admitted, into hospital for 8 days. So I was here on my own with not knowing whether I'm going to see him again, looking after 2 young children. And was there any help from the congregation? No. I was left to my own devices. And in that time, to say I went a bit loopy would be an understatement. I started all online, spending lots of money. I'd went out and got a tattoo, had my nose pierced for the first time, and all these things. Instead of asking if I was okay, they were condemning me, weren't they, Jim? Even when Jim was really poorly, they were on at him to sort out your non-submissive wife.
Oh, yes, I've had the same with my husband, and I was accused of exactly the same thing.
But I
Yes.
upset because I was like, well, why aren't they reaching out to help me? Because I've been a zealous sister. I've pioneered 10 years straight. I brought loads of studies to the meetings. I've done all the witness things I should be doing. Why aren't they there to support me? That's what
Exactly.
really got me.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Oh, it just I'd like to say that you're an exception, but you're not.
Yeah.
I've heard so many stories. I mean, everybody's experience is unique to them, but it's just so many people have been cut from the same cloth, Sorry, go ahead, Jim.
Yeah. So as regards negative things, so I mentioned the thing with my sister and the blood situation, but everything kept being shelved. But so one of the things that sort of happened in 2016, this would have been before what happened recently in 2020 with Sam, was I started to go, because things were in my mind a lot more. I started doing more research on the internet. And by this time, there was like more videos and more things that I was starting to learn about the history of the organisation. I mean, in particular, the thing with the blood, I mean, realising it became a doctrine in 1940 something with Brother Noor. And that made me kind of think, well, my whole decision revolved around the ramblings of a couple of men, really. And that never really sat with me. Right. And I started doing more research, but I made the mistake. And I was new to like new information, but I kind of shared stuff with ones in the congregation and said things. I was a bit too open. And I even sent one apostate video to a fellow elder just out of concern, just said, I'm struggling with this sort of thing. And he accidentally then told a couple of other elders. So the next thing I knew, when I went to I had 2 elders turn up at my doorstep, and thankfully I was out, but they says, we want to have a word with you next meeting. So they took me upstairs, and they sort of said, I've heard that you've sent an apostate video to one of the fellow elders on the body. And I said, yeah. I said I was just trying to find out what it was, really. And they basically said that if it happens again, you probably could be facing judicial action. And I said, I'm sorry, sort of thing. I said, I didn't mean to sway his faith. I was just looking. And he says, well, you've been singed. You've been singed for now, but you're kind of close to going in the fire. So then I went on our holiday, and when I come back, I thought that was the end of it. But they actually I had 2 elders come round my house, and they sort of said, we feel we want to review your qualifications as an elder. So they arranged a meeting at the Kingdom Hall. There was like me sat there and the whole body of elders in the room. And they kind of were asking me my thoughts and what my beliefs were. And they said, how can you, if you've got doubts yourself, how can you help somebody? And around this time, I was going for a bit of counselling, because this sister, she was a counsellor. She kindly helped me. And she kind of put my doubts down to just OCD and what they call pure O, where you obsessively question your beliefs. And I think there was some element of truth in what she was saying, but she was also indoctrinated herself, giving me the counsel. So I, at the time, believed that it was a mental issue I was going through. So I said to the body of elders, now I'm fully on board with the witnesses. I have got issues, but I'm not going to share anything anymore. And I'm sort of, it's just a bit of mental issues that I've got. And they kind of, on that premise, they put me out the room for about an hour, and they were talking, and they says, we have decided that we are happy for you to remain serving. So they all hugged me, but I knew in the back of my mind, so I carried on as an elder after that, but I knew sort of I still things didn't still sit comfortable with me. But even after that, because Sam was still indoctrinated, I was still going through the motions even after that, you know.
Oh, wow. Oh my goodness. So can I ask you then, were you getting it, obviously were you doing your items, you know, on the platform, knowing that you didn't believe any of it?
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't think I could have done any if they'd have given me like an item about shunning or not answering the phone when your relatives ring you. I don't think I could have done it. So I did sort of say to the coordinator, who was a close friend of mine, I said that certain items I don't feel comfortable doing. You know, if it's anything to do with disfellowshipping or the blood, it was never sat comfortably with me. But when I did try and do an item or anything, I'd always try and turn it round towards Jesus Christ, or try and make it like, you know, look at the good aspects and present like the Christian message to the congregation.
Wow. So you oh my goodness, I take my hat off to you. So you really tried your hardest. So then the defining point, did you both leave together, or did one follow the other?
So back in 2020, when we were under lockdown, I would meet for coffee with, well, she was a sister, she's not anymore, who was concerned with what was going on. And she'd stopped going to the meetings during the lockdown. She didn't even go on Zoom because it just irritated her. But she showed me the Australian Royal Commission video, and I was shocked to hear that what they were telling the rank and file at the meetings, that they're the faithful and discreet slave, you obey us no matter what, but yet publicly they sang a different tune. They were saying, oh, that would be presumptuous of us to say that we're the only church. And I was shocked. I shelved that at the time because of what was going on. So that was in the back of my mind. So I would regularly have contact with that sister who was doing her own research. I say sister, she's still my sister, we're friends. But yeah, so that happened. And then come recently, we moved congregation because we felt got at by the congregation we were in. So we moved congregation in March last year. We went to about 3 meetings, was it? 3 meetings of our new congregation. And then mysteriously, my car, which isn't old, conked out in May. And it was at the garage. It wasn't fixed until July. So I had no way of getting to meetings and things. Although the brothers said, oh, we can come and pick you up. I said, no, it's okay. So for that time, I was away from the indoctrination. I got my own thoughts, doing research as well. Come the school holidays in August, my study recently got baptized the year before. We were having doubts together. So then we started doing our research, and she Googled, because she was an orphan, so she felt spiritually orphaned now as well. So she really wanted some community again. So she just Googled where she could go in Telford, where we're from, to see if there was anywhere local we could get that kind of community again. So she went into an actual church and she said to me, do you want to come? And I said, no, not at the moment. But then after the school holidays, when the kids had gone back, we both went in September, and we felt a complete vast difference between how they treated us and how the witnesses would treat somebody new going into the Kingdom Hall. We was embraced with you know, with arms. And all they said to us, if anywhere is telling you they're the only true way, run the other way. We're only here as a community to help serve God together.
Right.
So we really like that. And so we went full into it, myself and another lady. Jim didn't. He was a bit reserved. He stayed at home while I went to the church on the Sunday. And we did like the Alpha course just to see, well, what's the other side of, because we've only been taught witness doctrination. And then come October, we did some Bible study as a community at church, and it was about being bold. So I drafted my WhatsApp letter to the elders, basically saying, I love you, but I cannot go along with being a Jehovah's Witness anymore. I do not agree with the doctrines. And I resigned. I said, please take me off. You know, I want to disassociate from the witnesses now. So that's how I ended it in October.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So, I mean, like, things came to a head with myself probably a bit before then. So Sam mentioned about the pandemic, and when they kind of said about, right, get back to it now, get back to meetings and get back to knocking doors, because he'd had that long break, it just didn't feel the same going back in a way, because you realise, well, you know, I've had led a normal life at a normal pace.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to go back to the crazy pace of before, really. And we just kind of, we weren't that regular. We missed a lot of meetings and things like that. And my doubts that I'd suppressed and shelved for over the decade were becoming more and more in my brain. So then I've just kind of went full on into YouTube and doing research, you know, fully this time. And I really kind of said, you know, you owe it to yourself to dig a bit more. So I listened to all of Crisis of Conscience, and it really resonated with me. And I thought, the views that I've had my whole life, they are like genuine. They're not kind of a product of me not thinking correctly.
Yeah.
So the Crisis of Conscience. Then I just literally watched lots and lots of Lloyd Evans's videos. I know he's obviously not religious, but I couldn't knock his logic in a lot of ways. I listened to a lot of Stephen Hassan about cults and how they operate. I learned a bit more about the BITE acronym, what it stands for: behaviour control, information control, control, emotional control. I looked at other groups like Mormons, and I thought, well, they have not to be friends excessively with people who aren't Mormons. They tell you not to go on the internet. Then if you leave, they shun you. Then I looked at Scientology.
All the same.
And then I looked at mine. I thought, well, mine's a similar, although there's the varying beliefs, it's like the same shell of control, isn't it, basically?
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
I just realised I really have been in a cult my whole life. And then just seeing like JW broadcasting, like how slapstick and how silly they are. It just made me realise even more. I think it's a big mistake they've made in making themselves that public. You know, so seeing the actual faces on the screen. And then just finally just realising how older publications, they're either like phased out where you can't access them anymore. There's alterations made to lots of them. And then like you see now where you can't even find certain things. So to me, there's obviously a devious hand there of trying to not let everyone do their research objectively.
Exactly.
So,
I mean, and everybody, I mean, my critical thinking was in a coma for 35 years, you know. I mean, I just did not, you know, like we just said earlier, anything that you had which was actually true thinking was quickly, you know, shelved or put to the back of your mind because of the indoctrination. But you are right. I mean, if they had nothing to hide, why are they changing things? Why are they eliminating things? Why are they omitting certain, you know, Watchtower Publications, Awake Publications? Because they do not want current rank and file witnesses to find out. Something is really, you know, amiss at the moment on jw.org. They're going crazy at eliminating different things. And there's a reason for that, because, you know, they're starting to look like idiots. And I will say that, governing body, if you're listening, you are behaving, you know, in the most deplorable manner, and your deception and your lies are catching up with you. And you know, long may it continue that people are leaving. You know, it can't happen quick enough for me.
Well, we were looking at the years that have been removed from the watchtowers, and one
Yes,
of the generation year.
yes,
And that's interesting. But what I've always thought is when we were to go on the ministry, we'd tell the householder, examine everything, examine your beliefs. But yet when the shoe's on the other foot, we're not allowed to, or we're only allowed to look at jw.org.
Yeah.
Well, even that's vanishing now, isn't it? So
yeah. Well,
yeah,
because you know, oh, you don't need to do your research because it's all done for you. Well, yeah, exactly, it is. You know, and that's how the indoctrination was, you know, instigated year after year after year for all of us.
yeah,
Yeah,
know?
because I mean, like one thing that kept me in, and it's the same line you probably heard yourself. People say, "Well, where else do we go?"
yeah,
Exactly, exactly. Who else is doing the ministry?
yeah.
Yeah,
Who's doing
people
the preaching work? You know,
people don't realise to have a hope for the future, you don't have to be in a cult. You can
don't.
like, turn to Jesus Christ,
Yeah.
accept Him as your Saviour, and admittedly, there might be various aspects of the Bible that, you know, I'm not saying everything I was ever taught was false. But like, you know, there's still like new things I'm learning about God's word now, and I still feel comforted in a hope for the future. It doesn't mean
Amen.
people have got this blinkered view that if you leave the witnesses,
Yeah.
like a family member said to me, you might as well put a bullet in your head because there's no hope. But that's how the indoctrination has got them, you see,
Yeah.
thinking in that way.
Actually, it's the shoe that it should be them that should be saying that to themselves, because they're so far removed. You see, you and I know, both, all three of us know now that a governing body, and you know, through videos that I've done, are actually leading millions of people away from the Christ. So governing body are absolutely, you know, they're on a sticky wicket before the Lord, because they're supposed to be teachers and shepherds, and the Bible says if you take on that mantle, then you are far more irreprehensible.
Yeah.
You know, so you know, this is why when I first woke up, I set about, and once we disassociated as well. We weren't disfellowshipped. We didn't want to give them the satisfaction. We actually sent an email to the congregation telling them exactly what we thought. But I just said to Paul, that's it. I'm going to do a YouTube channel, and I'm going to get on there, and I'm going to expose them in every way that I can. And I've been doing that for almost a year now. You know,
It's amazing. I mean, yeah, I mean, finally, just the icing on the cake, so to speak. I mean, obviously, it was always holding me back that Sam was obviously indoctrinated. I was a PMO. But once
yeah,
she went, and it was like only going to go one way.
For me, when I know something's wrong, that's it.
that's
Yeah.
it. We're the
I'm like
same.
you. I'm
Yeah,
using media platform to post about everything, and I've had 4 or 5 witnesses on the edge message me privately, and we're all in this WhatsApp group together. PMO Pomos, we call it. We all
great.
each other.
Yeah.
So
And you know, there's nothing wrong. You know, there's nothing wrong with supporting one another. You know, and the body of Christ. You know, it's not. You know, you don't have to go to a building. You don't have to go to you know, a man-made religion. Jesus said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No
Right.
one comes to the Father except through me." Okay, and then of course Psalms, do not put your trust in nobles or earthly man to whom no salvation belongs. So yes,
Yeah.
we can all encourage one another. We're all learning at different rates. You know, nobody's got exactly everything right down pat 100%. You know, I'm still learning, and I think, oh, you know, I'm going to adjust my thinking on that. That's not what I'm thinking anymore. You know, and this is what it means to grow in the knowledge of
Yeah,
Christ.
exactly. I mean, like you don't need like a massive corporation of men
No,
to tell the truth to you, do you?
no.
And that there's nowhere that the word organisation isn't even in the Bible. I
no,
know that the witnesses said, well, God's always had a channel. He had ancient Israel, he had the first century congregation. But the point they miss is that it's the body of Christ, isn't it, that stemmed from there. I mean, there was a man-made channel in medieval times. And then they erroneously did the 7 times, 1914, when God inspected the earth in 1919, which if you do your research, that's not right, don't you? You know,
well,
you know.
they get the words of Christ mixed up when Jesus said to Cephas, "On you I will build my church." Basically, the word church is from the old word ecclesia, which means community. So, you know, on you I will build the community. I will build my community. And when you go back to the first century, the Christians would meet in their homes, and they would break bread. They would do, you know, the communion, the bread and the wine in small groups, you know. So this is what it's all about being a Christian and fellowshipping like this, you know, as we are doing now. I know we're doing this interview, but everybody watching in, they're going to greatly benefit from your experiences. My goodness. So
I mean, finally, I'd say how it ended finally with me was, so Sam had disassociated, and then what happened was, then they were kind of after me, the brothers were, to
make a decision.
They said they want to know your thinking on things, and so it was like the thought police, really. But because I wanted to fade originally, and for us to both like privately pursue our own beliefs, because I didn't want to upset family and everything. But it reached a point where I had to kind of, because Sam had been brave, it made sense just doing the same as her. And so in the end, they sent it like a demanding
a judicial letter.
I sent it. I think I sent it. Like it was a very demanding letter.
Yeah, you did.
I was required to attend. And but I sent a voice note saying no, and I just disassociated.
Obviously, because of disassociating, our family members now see us as disfellowshipped. So my mom won't with me, although my dad will, because he was brought up as a Catholic. Jim's mum and dad won't speak to us. We're both blocked.
But it appears they won't. Like, I mean, I think you're more on the bad books than
I'm the naughty one. I've swayed him, you see. Except he was a P.
At the end of the day, you know, Jesus said, "Whoever loves father, brother, mother, sister, who more than me is not worthy of me." And of course, you know, we get the strength and the help from the Holy Spirit. So you know, look, at the end of the day, I mean, these things. Paul, my husband, I didn't have any family as witnesses. They're all Catholics. But Paul's family, I mean, his dad was a Watchtower elder for decades. His mum was a regular pioneer, you know, brought hundreds of people into the organisation, literally hundreds of people into the organisation, you know. And I mean, she's got dementia now. She's away, you know. But his dad, you know, he speaks to Paul, and his sister speaks to him, but he can't talk about his beliefs, you know. And then, of course, he lost his sister, younger sister Esther, last year to breast cancer. And her and her husband, they were on the circuit work in South America for decades. So, I mean, if she was still alive and we'd woken up, I mean, there would have been, you know, a lot of trouble to play for. But these things happen, and if it does anything, it just helps us to put priority and things into perspective. What is important, you know, is Jesus, you know, without sounding preachy. You Sam, you Jim, we've all been talking, you know, about our newfound faith, and you know, aren't we thankful that we have been snatched out of the, I mean, we literally believe we were snatched. It was like our Lord saying, "That's it. I've been knocking on the door for 35 years. Out you, that's it, out you come." And he actually says, "Nobody can snatch them out of my hand. What the Father gives belongs to me, because it's from him." So we're in a very, very precious, privileged position. And all of those things that happened to you when I'm listening to you, they were just, you know, alarm bells, really. But because we were all so, you know, indoctrinated, I mean, I'd
Yeah.
go to the meetings and I'd literally hear this voice, you know, why are you here? Why are you here? Why are you here? Yeah, and
Yes.
I'm thinking this is Satan telling me, you know, you need to leave and trying to get me to stop worshipping Jehovah. But
Yeah.
actually, it was Jesus Christ. When I look back now with the luxury of hindsight, it was him knocking.
Yeah.
Why are you
Definitely.
here? You need to leave. So,
Yeah.
you know, thank you for all your experiences. Some of them have been absolutely horrific, but they're going to, I know, my friends, they're going to mold you and make you into very, very strong people that the Lord can use. The Lord can use both of you as vessels for an honourable purpose to actually help others come to Christ. Because if we don't have trial, if we don't
Yeah.
have a test, how can we be refined?
Yeah.
How can we be solid, you know, through that testing, so that we can be of good use? We're just,
Yeah.
you know, we're just pilgrims, we're just aliens, you know, alien residents traveling through the howling wilderness. You know, this isn't our home.
Yeah.
So our family, so-called, I mean, I've lost friends, 15-year friendships, who now think that I'm, you know, under
Yeah.
the usherings of Beelzebub, you know.
Yeah.
Their
I
loss.
was,
It's their
because
loss.
yeah, I was close to she was more like a mom to me. She really
Yeah.
loved kids, and when Jonas had his accident, it all started from there. I would help out cleaning the house because she had an elderly mother living with her. Then I'd go with her to visit her mom at the the care home she was put into before she died. But I messaged her and said, I love you, but I just can't go along with these things. I still would love to speak to you and keep in touch. And, you know, I won't share any of my beliefs. But even that, she didn't tell me when her mum died, which really hurt me. I found out through my dad, who's living in Madeira, because she had messaged my mom, who obviously told my dad, then my dad messaged me. So I didn't know that. I was heartbroken because I loved them both.
Yeah.
And I found out I'd missed the funeral. So I emailed her. I thought, well, she's blocked me on everything. So I emailed her and I said, I'm really sorry to hear about the death of, you know, your mom. I'm still here for you. I'm the same person. And all she said was, I love you, Sam, but I can't go along with your decision. I have to stand by my baptism, whatever that means. Okay. And that
Yeah.
was it.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
according to witnesses, you see, my friend said you've broken your vow, and I
Yeah.
said, well, we're not supposed to make vows anyway. But
Yeah.
it just went beyond. It went beyond that. I mean, but funnily enough, I mean, work this one out. Funnily enough, she won't speak to me. She thinks that I'm worse than you know, anybody that could ever be removed from the organization, and yet she hasn't blocked me or removed herself from WhatsApp.
Yeah.
just
She's
enough to
still there.
spy.
Yeah,
on you.
you know, yeah, just enough to spy on me, hoping that I'll come back, you see. But you know, I don't do doctrinal companions. If you're going to be a friend for me, you're a friend for life. You're not a friend based on beliefs, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And any true friend would actually, they'd never end a friendship if they loved you that much, you know. I mean, she knew me for 15 years, and now all of a sudden, because I follow Christ,
Yeah.
I'm under Beelzebub. But you see, this is what Jesus said. He said, they're going to persecute you. They persecuted me. You'll be expelled from the synagogue on account of my name. And this is it in the kingdom halls, you know, the modern day synagogues, you know, the modern day Pharisees. As soon as you say, I want to follow Jesus Christ, well, you know, do you believe that the faithful and discreet slave are the channel, you know,
Yeah.
operating under God today? I believe in Jesus. You go out. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean?
Totally. I mean, on one hand, it's ridiculous because before we was disassociated, everyone was texting me like, "Where are you? Where are you?
Are
We
you
love,
okay?
we love you. We miss you. We miss you." And then as soon as disassociated, all the WhatsApp pictures went grey and like not talking to you anymore. It's just ridiculous because on one hand, you could have like a paedophile,
Yeah.
and he could be
Oh
reinstated
yes,
in the congregation in 6 months now. Whereas if you're an
Yeah.
apostate, you are the worst thing ever.
You're the worst. And then the governing body have been so clever to make that the case, that apostates, you know, they put them in the same realms as paedophiles and people who break their marriages, you know. But paedophiles and people who break their marriages, you know, they can come back and they'll be given privileges and everything else. But if you believe in Jesus Christ, then it's a different ball game altogether. But
apostate mean against Christ, so actually they are the apostates.
yes, exactly. Well, if you read 2 John verse 9, it makes it very, very clear there that we're not to partner with people who do not accept Jesus as coming in the flesh. We're not to have anything association with them at all. They're the bad association. So if there's any shunning to be done, it's the opposite way around, actually. But I just want to thank you so much for coming onto the channel, and you know, probably being the last Escape from the Tower guests, actually. You've been absolutely amazing. But as always, I always ask my guests on the series, you know, if I was to say to you, Jim and Samantha, you escaped from the tower because, what would your response be?
Freedom. Freedom of belief, freedom in the Christ. Liberated.
I'd say like true Christian freedom, that to have not to be micromanaged, but to manifest my free will and love of Jesus.
Isn't that lovely? Amazing. Well, I think that your experiences and your stories are going to absolutely be gold for people coming out of the organization, because I do get a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses watching my channel. In fact, I have somebody now, I won't tell you his position or where he is, but he's still an elder at PMO, and he was messaging me the other week, and he was in a pioneer meeting and an elders meeting, you know. So this is, you know, but you know, the family that he's in with are just so indoctrinated. It's very, very hard to let go and move out. So, you know, I know people watch the channel and they're going to be so built up and encouraged by the two of you. And I, for one, have made two very amazing friends, beautiful new friends, and my brother and sister in Christ, which is a luxurious bonus. You know, through these situations, you know, we would never, without them, we would never have come into contact. So everything is a bonus, and we're in a win-win situation. And like I said before, you know, we're all of us now a force to be reckoned with, because we are strong. We are soldiers of Christ, and we are there to help people and encourage others to also have that same walk and also the same future as we have. So I love you both very, very much, and you take care, and we're definitely going to keep in touch. Okay.
Definitely. Thank you, Karen. Thank you so much.
No worries.